There's this really scary article that just came out from the New York Times that I want to walk you through here. And it's about Trump's plans if he takes the White House again. And it ain't pretty, man. The stuff he's looking forward to doing is yikesy, to say the least. So they say Trump and allies forge plans to increase presidential power in 2025. The former president and his backers aim to strengthen the power of the White House and limit the independence of federal agencies. Donald J. Trump and his allies are planning a sweeping expansion of presidential power over the machinery of government if voters return him to the White House in 2025, reshaping the structure of the executive branch to concentrate far greater authority directly in his hands. Their plans to centralize more power in the Oval Office stretch far beyond the former president's recent remarks that he would order a criminal investigation into his political rival, President Biden, signaling his intent to end the post-Watergate norm of Justice Department independence from White House political control. Mr. Trump and his associates have a broader goal to alter the balance of power by increasing the president's authority over every part of the federal government that now operates by either law or tradition with any measure of independence from political interference by the White House, according to a review of his campaign policy proposals and interviews with people close to him. So, in other words, he feels like he's politically targeted and persecuted. He feels like the Department of Justice and various federal agencies are biased against him. So he wants to get in there, and he wants to clean house. He wants to clean house. He wants to break down these agencies and build them up in his own image. So they say Mr. Trump intends to bring independent agencies like the FCC, which makes and enforces rules for television and internet companies, and the Federal Trade Commission, which enforces various antitrust and other consumer protection rules against businesses, under direct presidential control. He wants to revive the practice of impounding funds, refusing to spend money Congress has appropriated for programs a president doesn't like, a tactic that lawmakers banned under President Richard Nixon. So, look, the legal picture here is actually a little bit complicated. When it comes to refusing to spend money that Congress has appropriated for something, he's literally just not allowed to do that. It's not up in the air. That's sort of like, it's not debatable. Like, he might try to do it, but he's not allowed to do it. In theory, it would be blocked by the courts. Who knows? Because it's a very, they're very right-wing courts, so they might side with him anyway. But in terms of making federal agencies or executive agencies more responsive to the president, I got to be honest with you guys, that is within his purview. That's within any president's purview, right? Like, just to give you a different example on the Democratic side, it's like if Joe Biden goes to the Secretary of Education and says, here's an executive order, I want you to wipe the debt slate clean for student loans. Now, some people on the right would be like, well, the Secretary of Education is independent and he doesn't have to listen to the president. And it's like, not really. If it's an executive agency, the head of the executive branch is the president, so they do have a right to do that. So I just want to be clear about that. What they're saying is he's going to put it in overdrive, but more importantly, rebuild a lot of these agencies in his own image. But legally speaking, as the president, the head of the executive branch, you can have direct control over executive agencies. Okay, anyway, let's continue. He intends to strip employment protections from tens of thousands of career civil servants, making it easier to replace them if they are deemed obstacles to his agenda. And he plans to scour the intelligence agencies, the State Department, and the defense bureaucracies to remove officials he has vilified as the sick political class that hates our country. So this is, let me look at the FBI, let me look at the CIA, let me see if anybody in these agencies I would classify as anti-Trump, and then they're fired. So, look, it is a degree above and beyond what any other president does, in the sense that he really just wants zero dissent from his own ideology, from his own belief system, zero independence at all. And he wants, to basically staff all of these agencies with Marjorie Taylor Greene-like sycophants who would sniff his farts and tell him that they smell awesome. They say the president's plan should be to fundamentally reorient the federal government in a way that hasn't been done since FDR's New Deal, said John McEntee, a former White House personnel chief who began Mr. Trump's systematic attempt to sweep out officials deemed to be disloyal in 2020, and who's now involved in mapping out the new approach. Our current executive branch, Mr. McEntee added, was conceived of by liberals for the purpose of promulgating liberal policies. That's definitely not true. There's no way to make the existing structure function in a conservative manner. It's not enough to get the personnel right. What's necessary is a complete system overhaul. So what they're talking about is they want to bring back this notion called the unitary executive theory. This was going on under George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. They really started leaning into it with the whole war on terror era. And ever since then, to one extent or another, every single president has embraced this idea of the unitary executive theory, which is that, you know, the president is tremendously powerful, and there will be less independence of agencies, and we're going to go ahead and take control of them ourselves. So, again, the difference with Trump in particular is that he's an example of a president who is incredibly petty, incredibly narcissistic, and has zero tolerance for dissent or disagreement. And so it would be scary to see him sort of break down and then rebuild these agencies. Because if you think like the FBI and the CIA are bad now, boy, wait until you see how they are if they're rebuilt under Donald Trump. What we're trying to do is identify the pockets of independence and seize them, said Russell T. Vought, who ran the Office of Management and Budget in the Trump White House and now runs a policy organization, the Center for Renewing America. The strategy in talking openly about such paradigm-shifting ideas before the election, Mr. Vaught said, is to plant a flag, both to shift the debate and to later be able to claim a mandate. He said he was delighted to see few of Mr. Trump's Republican primary rivals defend the norm of Justice Department independence after the former president openly attacked it. Stephen Chung, a spokesman for Mr. Trump's campaign, said in a statement that the former president has laid out a bold and transparent agenda for his second term, something no other candidate has done. He added voters will know exactly how President Trump will supercharge the economy, bring down inflation, secure the border, help protect communities, and eradicate the deep state that works against Americans once and for all. Here's the bottom line. Last time he went to Washington, when he won in 2016, he relied to one extent or another on like lifetime bureaucrats or people who are professional insiders in Washington. And he used a lot of them to staff different positions. And sometimes it was a horrible decision, and other times it was a sane decision. But in this instance, what he's really talking about is, let's have like Mike Lindell at the FBI. Like I'm exaggerating, right? But his only criteria is going to be loyalty to me. Doesn't care about ideology, doesn't care about philosophy, doesn't care about potential independence. He wants absolute, utter sycophants. So look, in the case of Trump, this should concern you quite a bit, especially because he sort of rebuilt the policy, especially at the state level around the country, rebuilt the party, I should say, in his image. And so the concern from a lot of people is, well, what happens during the next election where issues come up? He's going to claim the election was stolen from him if he loses. Does he have enough sycophants in positions of power in the state parties across the country to do exactly what they did in 2020, except this time succeed? Or this time get the ball further down the field? Because that's a real concern. Will they steal some states, for example? Because, a sycophant is in charge of certifying the election. I don't know. But really what he's talking about is like a totalitarian takeover, unitary executive theory, a dictator-like approach where nobody has any independence whatsoever. And they're all really deeply, deeply loyal to him. In fact, he literally said this about his VP too. That, his main criteria is loyal to him. This doesn't end well. And he is planting a flag. He is letting it be known what his strategy is moving forward. And it's just yet another reason I wouldn't want this guy anywhere near the White House. I wouldn't want him anywhere near the White House. It's a terrifying prospect for him to take over more. He's already shown he has very authoritarian instincts. And if you give him another opportunity to flex them, it's going to get ugly. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.